Imagine a machine sitting in front of you that contains an endless amount of information. This machine can display this information in a variety of different ways, colors, and texts. All you need to be able to do is communicate to the machine the information you want displayed and how you want it displayed. With an understanding of this machine's language, you have a powerful resource at your fingertips. Without a knowledge of this language, the machine is worthless. HTML, or Hypertext Markup Language, is a coding language used to organize and display content on the internet. Slide number 1 shows an example of some simple code on the left side, and on the right side you can see how that code would be displayed in a web page. Most of us probably have websites or apps that we visit every day to get the information that we need. Think news, weather, banking information, etc. Websites are, very simply put, collections of information that are displayed in a certain way that make it easy and enjoyable for people to access. Most of these websites were created using HTML as the primary coding language. According to web technology survey site w3text.com, HTML is used by about 76.2% of all websites. This means that every day, most of us interact with content that was created using HTML, even if we've never seen a line of code or even heard of hypertext markup language. My name is Technical.Snyder, and coding has been a hobby of mine for about a year now. HTML was the first coding language that I learned, and it's the language that I have spent most of my time using. I've created several very simple and basic websites using HTML, and one of my good friends, who has a degree in computer science and codes for a corporation full-time, sat down with me and gave me some insight into how he uses HTML for his company's website. I will be sharing with you the basic steps of how HTML is used by first explaining what hypertext markup means, and then going through the main elements that make up HTML code. So let me clarify what is meant by hypertext markup language. First, I will clarify what hypertext and markup mean. So, the Mozilla Developer Network describes hypertext in this way. Quote, "The term hypertext refers to links that connect web pages to one another, either within a single website or between websites." That comes from developer.mozilla.org. Anytime you visit a website or open an email that displays text that allows you to click on it and access another web page, you have just used hypertext. By creating a website using hypertext and linking web pages together, you have just contributed to what is referred to as the World Wide Web. Now, being able to link web pages together and making it easy to navigate through content is one of the main reasons why HTML is such a popular language for creating websites. Now, the term markup refers to the different ways that you can tell the web page to display text, images, or really any sort of content. There are several different kinds of markups which tell the web page to display the information in a certain area, in a particular order, or in a specific way, and several popular markups can be viewed on slide 2, and I will be referencing that slide a little later on. Now, I like to think of markups as being similar to adjectives in the English language. Adjectives don't tell us what to do, but instead they tell us how to do it. For example, if I tell you to walk quickly or to speak clearly, the adjectives or the markups would be quickly and clearly. Now, understanding these two definitions, we can now take a look at how HTML is used to make web pages. The three major elements, or marked up text known as building blocks of an HTML page, are the doc type, the head, and the body, and that comes from codeacademy.com. The doc type is the simplest of the three, and it only takes up one line of code. This single line of code is always at the beginning, and it simply tells the web browser what language you will be using to create the web page. Now, without this declaration, the web browser may not know what language to read the web page in. Now, as mentioned earlier in slide 2, this shows how that markup looks and how it's written. Now, though it's not required, it is common practice for doc type to be in all caps. However, this is the only markup that is done so. Now, the arrows at the front and end tell the web browser when the markup is beginning and when it is ending. The head is usually only a few lines, and it contains the title of the web page. When you're on a web page, you can look at the top and you can see some information that'll kind of talk about what that web page is displaying. Also, if you view your tabs, you'll see them on the tabs as well. This is known as the title, and this line is put in the head of the code page. Now, just like doctype, the title markup begins and ends with arrows. After entering the title markup, you can then type whatever you want the title of the web page to be. The primary purpose of the head element is to attach a title to a web page. Now, adding this may not seem like a big deal, but if you forget to add it in or you don't add it in, it'll seem like there's a big hole in the web page. Now, finally, the body element contains the majority of the code for the web page. In the body, you can add images, links, tables, videos, music, really any sort of content. And you want to add a good variety of this to make the web page look nice and function well. Now, as done previously, the body is placed between the arrows. A very common code that people will do is to make a web page that says "Hello World," and by adding a header, which is done by an opening arrow, H1, closing arrow, and then typing in "Hello World," enter that into your website and display it, and you have now created a website that says "Hello World." Other common markups include in between arrows, an A to create a link, a P to create a paragraph, IMG to create an image, and LI to create bullet points. Like I said earlier, it's important to use a good variety of these to make the web page look nice and function well. Now, Case Redder, who works at Melaleuca as a developer, shared with me the importance of HTML and specifically the body of the code. He said, quote, "The body of HTML code is really what allows me to make a website look pretty, function correctly, and link users to other important web pages. I spend 90% of my time working on the body and coming up with ways to make the website more user-friendly. It's amazing that we're able to tell a web browser what to do, and then it does it. It's an invaluable resource," end quote. Now, these different elements come together to make what is referred to as code, and it serves as the language that tells a web browser what info you want it to be displayed and how. These are what I've shared are just the basic elements of HTML code, but they can be used to make very functioning websites. After these are learned, several other amazing things can be added to make a website just like the ones you visit. In fact, you can easily view the code of any website to get an idea of what the big picture looks like. If you click at the top right, the three dots in the upper right-hand corner, select More Tools, and then select Developer Tools, you will see displayed the whole code for that website. Now, to see this in practice, slide 3 shows a very small portion of a website's code. It may look completely unfamiliar to you, but I know all of us are familiar with it, because that is the code to our CMP 2201 Moodle page. And if you look on slide 4, you will then see that code displayed in the web page. The importance of understanding code can be summed up by a quote from Bill Gates, where he said, quote, "Learning to code creates a way of thinking about things that I think is helpful in all domains," end quote. And that comes from Codable.com. Now, in conclusion, I have explained what hypertext markup language means and the basics of how it is used to create web pages. HTML can be seen as intimidating, but it's important to remember that it is simply a way of communicating between you and the internet. Case Redder ended our conversation by saying this, quote, "Coding is just like you and me communicating with each other right now. There is power in effective communication, and being able to effectively communicate info through the internet allows us to do incredible things."